Yeah, so this is the first film version of Frankenstein, of course, based on the novel from 1818s, and it was made by the Edison Studios. They're set up in the Bronx. He had a big studio there. Directed by J. Cyril Dawley. He directed 150 films between 07 and 26.
Wow.
Most with the Edison Company. So the stars of it: Augustus Phillips as Dr. Frankenstein, Charles Ogle as the monster, and Mary Fuller as the doctor's fiancée. And it's only 3 parts in it, and it's very short. And looking up stuff, it always says it's 16, 17 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
But it's nowhere near it. It's like 12, 13. It follows the story, to begin with, it follows it somewhat accurately. Apparently the film was like deliberately designed to like de-emphasize all the horrific elements of the story and focus on like psychological horror instead.
Yeah, okay.
To the point where, you know, follows the typical Frankenstein creating the monster route. But it has this, the ending's actually confusing, because have you seen a proper adaptation of Frankenstein? Like, do you know the Frankenstein story properly?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
When the monster starts to come back to haunt the doctor, it's pretty much implied in this version that's all in his mind.
Oh, okay.
Like, so, the story of Frankenstein, for people that don't, the very basic version is he creates the monster, hates what he's done, abandons him. The monster goes, has his own life, runs away, lives in the woods, learns English. All this eventually tracks down his creator, Victor, and wants him to build him a woman so as he can be happy if he can't like be a proper human. And Victor eventually doesn't, and he kills Victor's fiancée, and then they both set out to get revenge on each other, and essentially it ends badly for both of them. But in this version, it kind of, up until the point where he tracks back down Victor, it all kind of, for something that the first act is 4 minutes, so for what you can fit into 4 minutes, it's a okay adaptation. Yeah. But after that, it's just, he eventually gets rid of the monster. In this version, the monster is more like a clingy child, kind of. And he's very much a monster. He's done, like, he's got sort of claw-like hands, and he's got big like clown shoes and a hairy face and stuff. It looks a mess. At the very end, he thinks he's gotten rid of Frankenstein, and then he sees him in the mirror. And like earlier on, when the monster first comes back to him, it was the same scene, but this time, the closer he gets to the mirror, it dissolves, and it's actually Victor. So it's like they're implying it was all in his head, or like they were trying to say something, but it just didn't really come across well. What's really interesting about it, it's one of the only adaptations, at least that I've seen, of Frankenstein that actually shows the creation of the monster as somewhat accurate. I mean, pretty accurate, because how's Frankenstein created?
The good old classic is using lightning and.
Yeah, but it's all like
it's like men stitched together. And stuff.
Yeah. Or in a lot of versions, I think, is it just like a convict, like they just the body of a criminal or something. Yeah. But the monster is made completely from scratch in the book. Yeah. And in this film, it does the same. And they do it.
So it's more like a genetic experiment kind of thing, growing it in a petri dish kind of idea.
No, well, in the book,
but obviously not without that science background.
Well, in the book, the funny thing is, that's actually kind of going off topic, but it's like the funny thing with Frank, you know how people refer to genetically modified foods as like Frankenfood all this, and it's like playing God with science and all this. Yeah. In Frankenstein, he doesn't actually use science to build Frankenstein, or build we'll get to that too. Build a monster. It's alchemy and occult studies. And in the book, because the book's told, it's him telling the story to while he's on a ship. He chooses to omit this section of how he actually created the monster because he doesn't want anybody to repeat it. But he doesn't use science. It is about creating it from scratch, and they kind of do that in this version. But it's more, they don't actually go into the occult and alchemy. It's just it's a vat in this little room, and it's the doctors looking through it, and you see Frankenstein being created in it. But they actually done like an awesome job doing it, because what they made a fake like Frankenstein, and burnt it in this like bathtub vat thing, and then reverse the film.
Oh, really?
And so you see it, come together. It's really cool for 1910. Like,
Okay.
and actually, that's one of the things. Like, the film took 3 days to shoot, mostly because of that scene. So, and that was considered huge at the time, because up until that, no movie had been shot at the Edison studio that took more than a day. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting alone, that it was actually somewhat accurate in the creation. Like, I haven't seen, even in the one, what's the guy's name? He directed Thor. But the guy, the Mary...
or Mary Shelley, the one with
De Niro.
De Niro,
Yeah, like, even in that, I think it's De Niro as a criminal who's just been hung, and he takes the body.
Yeah.
And it's literally a case of, like, putting... Like, I think maybe the brain was created from scratch in that version. Yeah. But that version does a really good job up until a point, and then it just descends into madness. So, what's funny on this, the credits are weird, because you read up anything on this, it switches between who plays Frankenstein, because they're referring to the monster sometimes, and the actual doctor in another. Which just because I've already talked about being annoyed when people say Frankenfood. It's what really annoys me. You might have had it, like, everybody's referred to the monster as Frankenstein.
Yeah, of course.
And everybody has had somebody say to them, "Oh, it's not actually Frankenstein in the book. It's actually Dr. Frankenstein that creates the monster, and it's the monster's just called the monster."
Yeah.
Which is not even fully true either, because there's no character called Dr. Frankenstein in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Because Victor, he's a medical school dropout.
Oh, he's not a doctor. He's Victor. Yeah.
So when people call you on something like, "Oh, that's just a movie," you're thinking, I was like, well, so are you.
Yeah.
And also, actually, in the book, like, they all say he doesn't have a name, but he kind of does. He's referred to as, like, the creature, the monster, loads of things. But he pretty much takes the name Adam.
Yeah,
as in Adam.
Because he's the first of his kind.
Yeah, and when he meets up with Frankenstein, he refers to himself as the Adam of your labours. But there's also a section, I think, in the same chapter where he's pretty much telling Victor what he's been doing for the last years, or however that he's been on his own, and he's saying, like, he started thinking about what happened the night he was created, and thinking about Victor more and more.
Yeah.
That he knew he had to have been his creator. And he had his journals, he took them from the lab, and he started reading them, and there's a line, "At length a thought of you crossed my mind. I learned from your papers that you were my father, my creator, and to whom I could apply with more fitness than to him who had given me life." That sounds to me like he's taken Frankenstein's name, like...
Yeah.
If he's referring to him as, like, if he takes the name Adam, and he sees Victor Frankenstein as his father, his name is Adam Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So, there, it's a good rebuttal.
So you're basically saying is, well, you're not completely wrong in calling the monster Frankenstein.
Yeah. I don't think people are wrong at all. I think the monster...
Yeah.
But no, it's just a theory, really. But I think it's a fair...
You should do lectures.
But as far as the production of this is, like, it was just one of 30 films produced in the Edison studio that week.
That week?
Yeah, it's just rolling them out. Apparently, like, audience members were actually kind of horrified by it. Just because of the creation scene in particular, and I think, like, some bit of religion involved too.
Yeah.
But whereas it became a lost film, of course. Yeah. So, because it was destroyed very, very shortly after its initial release, and, like, there was only maybe 30 copies produced.
Yeah.
And all of them, well, for the most part, all of them were destroyed just because there was no point at the time. They just didn't keep films. Like, it wasn't anything about, they didn't destroy it because there was moral outrage or anything. It was just the film was in its infancy still, and it was there. Like, the only point of film then was just to turn a profit, which I would argue is still the point. It was worth more to destroy them because they could reuse the spool.
Oh, okay,
they were made of silver, so, like, it was actually, they were quite expensive, like, so.
Yeah.
Once a film, like, ran its course and wasn't popular anymore and wasn't making money, they would just destroy them. So, like, you have a bunch of stuff that was, for all intents and purposes, lost. Apparently, 1,200 films that were produced by Edison Studios during its existence, most of them were lost.
Wow.
Apparently we only have a fraction of them. Yeah, so it was rediscovered by this guy, Louis Detlef, so a French name. He was a film collector, and it's weird. Like apparently his mother-in-law had a copy of 1910 Frankenstein, like one of the or maybe like, but at the time they said one of the only surviving. No other copy has been found since, so I assume this was the only surviving one.
She just happened to have it.
She just happened to have it. She was doing she used to be like a vaudevillian performer or something, and she used to play movies during her show.
Oh, okay.
So she just got
never sent it back or whatever. Like.
Yeah, or like she might have just nicked it or something and didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
She would just play, because she was probably performing much later than the film had even been released. But what's funny, he didn't even get it off her. When she died, she left all her films to her son-in-law.
Yeah.
And then he didn't even get it off him. He sold them to another collector, and this guy had to
buy it.
Yeah, and I think it was like the third. He was still like another 3 times removed from other buyers before he got it. And even then he just knew she had like old films and that there could be something good in there. But even he didn't know that was in there. And when he got it, he didn't know what it was because it was so damaged.
Yeah.
So he just left it to the side. It's easy, we can like Google now, see when Frankenstein was, see all this information. But in I don't know what year this was. Like I think it was the 60s anyway. How do you even find out? Like, people probably didn't even know that there was an Edison Frankenstein. It had just been something that was one, like we said, that was one of 30 movies that they made that week. So it just came and went. Like, people remembered it like the way people would remember an episode of a soap opera. Now, not even an episode of Breaking Bad, of a soap opera.
Some terrible soap. Yeah.
In the 60s, then, some film historian just discovered the old magazine that the Edison company sent around to promote films. And he found that and saw the picture of Charles Ogle dressed up in the full makeup as the creature or the monster or Adam Frankenstein.
You're really sticking with that.
And and he wrote about it, and then the picture started to pop up in like, he had all those 60s monster magazines. Like the ones, it started appearing in a lot of them ones alongside the Universal ones, and just came to be some interest in it. And eventually it was research and people discovered more about this 1910 version of Frankenstein, and it just became really sought after. But Detlef heard this
and I was like, I think I have that.
He announced he had a copy, and now that he knew what it was worth, he was unwilling to release it to anyone. Of course, to make a few bucks off it. So, and in the late 70s, he allowed a few minutes of it to be played in a BBC documentary. It was released on home video and all, so it spread around even more because of that. And just the versions he released to the BBC, because the film was public domain, anyone who even saw the BBC version could take the clips from the BBC documentary and put them into any documentary they made, and then you had more clips from Frankenstein going around. And that was his fear. That's why he wouldn't release it, even to lend it to people or lease it out.
Because they could just take it.
And like he wanted to, he was trying to like find a way to release it himself, to get a proper release from it. But this is only the 70s, so you can't release it. It's not like if we found this copy now, you could release it on like VOD, and at least for the first few days you'd make a bit of money off it before people start copying it and putting it on torrent sites. But back then he didn't even have like VHS, wasn't even an option. So he became very guarded about it, and in 86 he donated a copyright protected version of the film to the Academy of Motion Picture and Science. And this is the version that's eventually you can see online. And he went out of his way to protect it. There's like 4 watermarks on it. Like there's they're all over it. Like, and he actually like petitioned to the Academy then to get nominated for an Oscar. What? For his work in protecting this film, even though like he done nothing. Like he just because like this, everybody was really angry about this guy because they thought that he was
holding on to it so much.
He was just sitting on something that was really of historical significance. As early as the 2000s, he started having more public screenings. There was a yearly one somewhere in New Jersey that like played every Frankenstein movie, or at least every good one. And he agreed to that, but still, he was trying to find ways. He did get a DVD release of it, and it was just they done a bit of work on restoring it, but just I don't think he made anything of it.